Hey everybody, welcome to today's stream. Hope everybody's doing good today. So looking at the chat, lots of you guys are here, and I think if I scroll up, Dominic was here first, so congratulations for being first in the chat. So anyway, hope everybody's doing good. Like I said, Friday, weekend's coming, so that means hopefully you guys will be getting in the shop and doing some fun stuff. So today what we're going to do is we're going to play with some aluminum shavings. So the guys over at Stainless Bottle Stoppers sent me some fun things to play with, a bag of the kind of fine shavings, as well as, we got dinner's done, as well as some big curly Q aluminum shavings. So what I've done is I've been soaking the big curly Qs. I cut them down. I have kind of specific things that I want to make with these things. I'm actually going to be saving this. We'll see what we get from the results of these castings first, and then we'll have a little bit more to play with. So they also sent some other goodies. So I got another one of these mallet heads. So I thought, let's make a handle out of the curly Q stuff. And then what we're going to do is make some pen blanks with, I think we got enough for 3 curly Q style pen blanks. And then I thought we would just mix up some color with the little shavings and get a couple extras. So I'm running a little bit short on pressure pots right now. Thankfully, blank sales have been kind of going kind of crazy lately. So a big thank you to everybody that's purchased blanks through my site. But it also means that I got to keep up stock inventory. So I'm kind of short on pressure pots today. So we're going to do 2, let's see, does that work? Yeah, 2 castings. This guy and this guy with the aluminum shavings. And then I also have my 5-gallon pot free. And I said on Wednesday that we're going to recast this. And I'm going to send this to Mike. I just don't have enough time. I got so many projects lined up that right now, I don't think I'm going to get to this, so I want to get this thing recast and send that back to him, and I'm hoping that he might be able to get this turned. And at the same time, we still have 2 other of the blanks that we made with the skateboard shavings that he sent, and I'm probably leaning towards, I don't know. I think I'm leaning towards this one. I kind of like the gold, and I just want to see how this looks. A lot of the shavings kind of fell to the bottom, which actually is probably not going to be that bad in the bowl. If they would have just floated in the middle, that would have been way worse because you're going to core that out. But I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm going to do one of these guys, and I thought I'd send him back the one. I kind of thought that the color, solid color with the skateboard shavings looked the best. I mean, this thing looks like birthday cake or some crazy thing like that. So we're going to recast this. Hopefully he'll be, I don't know if he's, I think he turns spheres. So I don't think it should be a problem. But on this one, what I'm going to do is we're just going to go simple. We're going to go with some clear resin, and then I'm going to add some micro Starlight because I thought that all these little colors in here, let me switch cameras. Let me switch the camera view. All of those little colors look like little, sprinkles or something like that, and there's lots of different colors in there. And so that'll go well with the micro Starlight. That'll kind of accentuate it, so you'll have clear with some more of those little kind of colors in it. So it should be pretty simple. So that's what we have on the agenda today. Lots of stuff going on. It's pretty fun. I was when I opened the package from Stainless Bottle Stoppers, they sent it a while ago, but I opened it up and saw those curly Qs, and I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. So I think it should be pretty cool. And originally I was kind of thinking like clear, handle type blank, but I think it's going to be really neat with the pen blanks, hopefully, having that kind of spirally thing going around it. So let me stop real quick and see what's happening here. Give a few shout outs. I saw Paul doesn't have to work tomorrow, so that's awesome. Welcome to the stream. Glad you could stop by. And Chase is here. Of course, Dominic, how's it going? And Eric made it, nice. And let's see, and Doug had to come in and take off. Thanks for stopping by, Doug. And we got Ray's here, Christina. Frank's here, cool. And Brian over at TBC Bushings, how's it going? So sorry if I didn't shout out your name, but welcome. If you feel like it, guys, give a shout out where you're from. It's always interesting seeing, there's people from all over the world, basically. You would kind of, I don't know, there's definitely a lot of people from the U.S., obviously, that watch the show, but tons of people across the pond, and and actually quite a few people from down under. So it's pretty cool, but there's always, there was one, somebody was from Bahrain, I think. Is that right? Was that the right country? So it's always cool seeing where people are from. Paul, your homemade purple. Paul wants to get in on it. So just to let you guys know, I'm just going to go with the clear. I already have a plan for this. We're not going to do anything, and we're going to knock this out first. But Paul, you're first up. So what we're going to do, I think that would definitely be best for one of the curlicues. I was definitely thinking are you talking about like the blurple purple? I'm guessing that's what that is. So I would definitely wanted to see that with one of the curlicues. And I think what we can do is I'll probably just mix up a bunch of resin when we do the pen blanks, and we can do 5 different colors. I don't think that's going to be really too much of a problem. And then this one, so I'm not sure exactly. This one kind of, I would say, it needs to be transparent, but we'll have to kind of see. So we'll maybe do this one last. So if somebody wants to snag the colors for this, it's going to be, you're going to be kind of narrowed down to what you can pick though, because I don't want to put a bunch of, mica powder and all that kind of stuff. It would either need to be like clear or like a dyed, transparent color around it. That's kind of, I think, the direction that I want to go with it. So nice. Kuwait, sweet. Wisconsin, Salt Lake City, that's pretty close. Indianapolis, Phoenix, nice. You're right in the same neck of the woods as Eric. KRTL, what is it? KRLT, what is it? I can't remember the PLPS. I don't even know what that means. I forgot what that meant. But you guys are in the same city. All right, so first thing we'll do is knock this out. So what I'm going to do is we're going to grab, this was the one that I made for, doing the faux burl thing, the original faux burl. And so a couple things here. So what this is intended to do is be recast in a 4-inch PVC pipe, and then you have a cylinder, and they're generally, the idea is for spheres. That was kind of my initial, why I kind of came up with that. So I'm going to get a 4-inch PVC pipe out. We're going to spray it with some stoner. You want to make sure, especially on something that you can't open up really, you definitely want to use a mold release so that it doesn't get stuck in there. Worst case scenario, you could turn off a PVC pipe, but that's, nobody really wants to do that. So, so a little bit of stoner goes a long way. All right, so I got my pipe, and I have one of these. You can get these guys at Turner's Warehouse. They're just silicone plugs, and they got them from like 1/2 inch all the way up to 4-inch. I'm just blowing it off. You could, if you need to clean your plugs or even silicone molds, use denatured alcohol. You can kind of clean them off. I usually just blow it off. That's generally enough. So let me go over. I got to watch where I'm spraying this. I'm going to go kind of off camera, but I'm just going to, give it a coating, but I'm not going to like drench it necessarily. I'm just going to kind of pop, and just get the whole surface coated, and we're good. And then we'll just pop this guy in here. And I forgot to order one of those, and I don't know if it would have came anyway, but I need to get another bendy camera mount thing. So the work area, I call it, that's my work area camera is kind of a funky view because it's just kind of sitting over there. So I apologize for that. We'll get a new bendy mount thing soon for that. But anyway, okay, so now the next thing is a couple things. I'm actually, at this point, since we got the stoner out, I'm also going to kind of just give this a quick spraying off camera, and then I'm going to actually pop this in the oven, kind of heat it up. Again, typically you don't really need to coat the heck out of your molds. Just a little bit of, just get some coverage. That'll help them pop free. So let's get that guy toasting. And then now, let's see here. So one other thing I want to mention is this is filled with acetone, and that's just to kind of clean off any contaminants, anything that's on there. There's different ways that you can do this with like metals and things like that. One way you can actually just wash it in like soapy water. That would work. I find that to be, I don't know, it's just easier for me to use a little bit of acetone, and I think it may cut certain things a little bit better. But there's lots of different ways to do it. You could probably use denatured alcohol. MEK works, but that stuff is really nasty. Acetone's bad enough. So just good idea to wash it off. Now, I really just didn't want to do that with this. There may be some oils or something in here. I don't know. might not be a bad idea to wash off something like this, but I think we'll be okay. They're so small that if there is a little bit of oil in there, probably is not going to hurt anything. We'll have to kind of see though. So I'm just going to kind of set those off a little bit out of my way here. And before we get going, I almost forgot. So the Christmas ornament, the ornament challenge over at Turner's Warehouse for St. Jude, the auctions for those are going on. They're open right now. There's a link. Hopefully that works. That'll take you to the post, which I believe is the post. What they're doing is there's just a bunch of pictures in a gallery on their Facebook page. And so you go to each individual picture, and that's each ornament. And then you can put your bids down below them in like the comments for each picture. So I'm pretty sure that's how everything works. I didn't actually, I apologize, I didn't actually watch and get all the explanation, but that's how they did it last year. So definitely if you feel like, supporting that, all the proceeds of these auctions are going to St. Jude. So there was kind of two parts to that ornament challenge where, there was some prizes to be had, and they just announced the winners live. I think they might be doing it right now. So if you entered, the winners are being announced right now. And then the auctions, that's the second part where, your ornament is going to be auctioned off, and then whatever proceeds that it gets, all of it's going to St. Jude. And I believe that the auction period goes till November 30th, if I'm not mistaken, but all the information is on that link. And I'll try to remember to get that link in the show notes for people that are watching after the fact. I think even if you're watching the replay, you can see the chat anyway, so I'm not sure, but I'll make sure to double down on that. So let's see here. Just making sure I'm not missing anything. Chad's shop is 2 miles away. That's awesome. Sweet. You can just walk there. Okay, so Paul said, yeah, with the curly shavings. Sweet. Awesome. I just wanted to make sure I'm not missing anything. And Jen's here too. How's it going, Jen? I like to get into a Netflix wormhole anyway, whether I'm sick or not. It's always fun. Okay, so now the next thing that we need to do is when you cast these in your silicone mold, definitely and I wouldn't really recommend using a stone or any kind of mold release when you're casting these in your mold. So, and I actually screwed up the last time. So I actually made another one using Plat 25, which is more flexible, and I actually screwed up. I wasn't even thinking. I hadn't made one of these for a while, and I actually sprayed this out, and I totally messed up messed up the casting. So what you want to do, if you messed up and you sprayed your mold, definitely you'll want to wash off the surface of this thing before you recast it, or otherwise you're going to have nothing but problems. So let me go get an example to show you what not to do. Or what happens if you forget. So let me, not happy. I was like, oh, I totally screwed this up. Okay, so see all that white kind of shiny stuff? Yeah, that's resin not sticking. And I totally didn't wash it off, do anything, and I pulled it out of the mold. And I'll give you a couple more seconds here of this. And there's nothing really wrong. I don't think it'll even really come apart necessarily, but definitely not what I was going for, right? So anyway, so you want to make sure that you wash it off. And frankly, I would recommend washing it off, even if you haven't used any mold release or anything, just to make sure that the surface doesn't have any contaminants. I was just spraying some stoner over there in the corner, and some of it may have landed on this. So it's always a good idea to clean off the surface if you're going to recast resin. Another thing is if you have a lot of smooth surfaces, if for some reason you copied something and there's quite a bit of smooth surfaces, I would maybe recommend scuffing the surface up. Resin doesn't really stick. It's not like it melts into itself when you recast it necessarily. It's going to just create another layer, and the only way that it sticks to things is it needs to have a mechanical tooth. It's a mechanical bond. So in this case, the piece that I copied, there are so many little cracks and crevices that it's a pretty good bond, and I don't really feel the need to like scuff it up. I've never really had any problems unless I forget to take the stoner off of it, clean it off. But one other trick that I would recommend is, if you can possibly, if you make one of these things, and whatever it may be, if you're going to recast something that is made out of resin, the best way to go is to cast this thing, put it in your pressure pot, and this is one of the benefits of using Alumilite Clear Slow Set, is things can happen really quick. Cast it, put it in the pressure pot, pull it out, with like as fast as possible, like within like an hour or so, maybe 2 hours, depending on temperatures and all that stuff, size of it. Pull it out right away and then recast it right away, and you're going to get the best bond by doing it that way. So just a little bit of a tip. Now this thing's been sitting for at least a week or two, I'm not sure. So enough talking and tips. Let's switch to this view, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab some denatured alcohol, which I got in my little jug right there, and I really need to pick up a better one, but this is just like a nylon brush. I really want to get a handled one. I just haven't remembered to order some. But just kind of douse the surface. Let me get something to douse this on. Let me find something here so I'm not just creating a gigantic mess all over the place. There we go. This will do well. Got a little cake pan mold thing. And so I'm just going to douse it with a little bit of denatured alcohol here and just kind of scrub a little bit, scrub on it, and that way if there's any contaminants or anything like that, you're going to be hopefully getting rid of it. That's the idea. The one thing is you really need to watch out, and I want to make sure everybody understands, the only time you really want to put some kind of a chemical on top of this thing is when it's fully cured. And I would probably stay away from acetone because it's a little bit of a stronger solution. If you follow my recommendation and do the recast right away, so let's give you a scenario. Make sure not to use silicone on the mold to make this thing. Don't ever pour, as long as the mold that you're using never has had any mold release in it. You cast it, pull it out within like an hour or two. I would not touch it unless, unless there was like really smooth areas where you're going to get maybe a bond issue. You might scuff some areas, but you don't want to be pouring solvents on resin that you just cast. That could cause some problems with curing and all that. Okay, so hopefully this isn't too confusing, but this has been sitting this is definitely fully cured. I don't have a problem pouring some denatured alcohol on it, all right? But you don't really want to do that if this thing was just cast. And I would say probably within days. You really don't want to be dumping solvents on resin. It could inhibit curing or stop it or just cause some issues. All right, so it's like, I know that that's a lot of things to kind of remember, I guess, but now if you have used some sort of like stoner or something like that on your mold, I would clean that thing out. You can do the same thing, use some denatured alcohol and wipe it out. I need to do that with this. I'm not going to waste you guys' time today on that, but the best case scenario is to cast this thing, pull it out of the pressure pot, and then recast it right away and don't really do anything to it. That's typically, you're going to get the best results doing that. And it's the easiest, but it requires you to do it within the same day. Okay? So hopefully that made some sense. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my air hose and blow this off and dry all that excess, any excess off. You don't want any solvents pooled in any little crevices. Okay? And then what I'm actually going to do is we're just going to toss this in the oven. That'll help a little bit. Warm it up, give you the best bond you can. And I think we are ready to cast it. So, does anybody have any questions about what I was just explaining? Because that might have been kind of confusing. Scuff the surface if it is smooth, like shiny, glossy smooth. And like I said, there's a difference between you just pulled it out of the pressure pot and you're going to recast it. That's one thing. And I find that if I'm doing a multi-layer pour, typically I won't even scuff surface, even if it is kind of smooth. You usually get a pretty good bond if you can just cast resin right away on top of it. A lot of these other things with denatured alcohol and all that stuff kind of is more if it's been sitting around and it's definitely cured. All right, so let's see here. Oh, I blew off all the alcohol. It's not, alcohol dries really fast. But you're right, you want to make sure that it's all gone. If it still smells like alcohol, or if you're doing something with acetone, if it smells like that, then don't put it in the oven. Definitely don't put it anywhere near heat or flames or anything like that. All right, so I don't see any questions. Hopefully that made sense. Like I said, best case scenario, don't ever spray mold release in that mold. Cast it, pull it out within an hour or two, depending on your resin. If you're using like a slow setting resin, then you're gonna have to wait till kind of the next day, most likely. So that's why Alumilite Clear is that's one of the things that I like about it a lot, is it allows you to do things very quick. So let's just assume that you're using Alumilite Clear or Clear Slow. You can pull it out within an hour or two, and then get everything ready and recast it right away. At that point, you really don't need to do much. And there shouldn't be a whole lot of surface prep or doing any messing around. I would just dump it in there and cast it. And every time I've done that, I've gotten good results. And that also goes with those dragon eggs, where that shininess that I showed you on that one blank. It's the same thing that happens with dragon eggs, which indicates it's just a surface adhesion problem. I'm having areas where it's not adhering. So you either need to scuff it up or it needs to be recast right away. Those are the two options for you. All right, so let's get a mixing cup. I'm just going to get a brand new one. Brand new. I like using brand new cups if I'm doing clear casts. That way there's no funkiness on there, any dyes or it shouldn't really be dyes, but there's no crusties or anything like that, because if you're reusing a cup and you've kind of tried to clean it, but there's little debris, it'll get into your cup and you're kind of screwed. So we'll put it on that view. Like I said, this isn't the greatest thing, but it's the only way that I can kind of set things up like that. We'll be back to normal, better soon. So let me get my little book of recipes and things out here. All right, so I think that these things take, I think it's 600. Hold on a minute. No, it's more like, let me look up my notes. I always forget. But I just did one not too long ago, so it's not like I gotta dig for too far. Oh, it is 600. Okay. About 600 grams of resin is what we're going to need. All right, so what's the date? 11/20. Who's ready for Thanksgiving? I'm excited. We're doing things a little different. This year's a little bit of a, we're not hanging out. We're kind of quarantining a little bit, but we got things rolling. Which actually, one other thing that I want to mention is next week's live stream schedule, I'm just not sure about. Wednesday I can't do for sure. We're kind of being Thanksgiving Santas, and we're taking food to people. So I'm not going to be even in the shop on Wednesday, so there won't be a stream on Wednesday next week for sure. We'll have to see about Friday. I'm just not sure exactly what all is going on with plans and all that kind of stuff. Technically, we shouldn't really be doing anything, but at the same time, I'm not sure. Maybe Gretchen has something planned for us. So keep your eyes peeled on my Instagram and Facebook for an update for next week's streams. Maybe they'll be canceled. I'm not sure. But if not, or bare minimum, if next week is canceled, then the week after that, we're back in action. All right, so I just wanted to kind of mention that. Skateboard shavings sphere. All right, so we need 600 grams, 300, and so I'm using Alumilite Clear, and the way that I do things, I'm going to add a little extra part B, only with this resin that I'm using here, Clear Slow Set. This could work with Clear as well, but Clear or Clear Slow Set from Alumilite, not Amazing Clear Cast, no epoxies, no other resin at all, just Alumilite clear. And that just helps to kind of ensure that you make, that it comes out dead clear. It always works. So I'm going to go, my ratio is going to be, this is a 1-to-1 mix ratio. I'm going to be 300 part A and 302 part B. And so we're not really talking about significant amounts, just a little extra, just helps to ensure that everything goes smooth. We're using a 4-inch PVC pipe, and again, slow set, clear. And that's it. Oh, and I'm going to also add a little bit of my micro Starlight glitter. It's like a holographic, lots of different colors, very fine particles. And just, it'll add a little bit of, interest to the clear without obscuring anything. So let me switch to this view. If you guys don't know it, I use this quite a bit on the show, but it's pretty cool stuff. I like this stuff. So it's just kind of like a holographic, kind of sparkly glitter stuff, but it's kind of colorful. So it'll add a little bit of interest to the mixture. All right, so let's switch to this. Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah, so like I said, we're not doing stuff with our families. We just, we're being cautious, and there's also some kind of logistical problems with this year anyway. So, but we found a place, instead of cooking, we actually found a place that they're like a catering company. And so we're getting kind of like small individual Thanksgiving, like the whole feast, for like a single person type thing. And there's going to be lots of like pairs of people, that are not, otherwise we would have all gotten together. So we're just picking up these things and delivering them and pumpkin pie to everybody and doing all that kind of stuff. So it should be fun on Wednesday to get out and kind of be Santa Claus for food. I got to be honest, I would accept Santa Claus just dropping food down the chimney for me too. So it's going to be pretty cool. All right, so 300 grams part A. I'll quit talking. Somebody commented on one of the last live streams, you talk too much. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? Just be like silent on a live stream? People's expectations are funny. All right, so I'm sneaking up. And you might notice I've gone back to the pumps. For me, I think part of the thing with the pumps is I've just been using them for like years, like 7 years. I've been doing it that way, and it's hard to switch and just go without the pumps. So I just decided to go back because part of the thing is on the stream, not that big of a deal, but I actually went just a little bit over, and I'm going to take some out. Oops. I want to be over here. But when I'm making blanks, it takes me a lot longer because I'm not used to it. Now, I think if you're just starting up and you just don't even buy the pumps, I think you'll probably get better at just pouring it out of the bucket, So if you're a beginner, that's maybe the way to go, because these pumps can clog up and they're just kind of a waste of money if that's the case. But it works for me. If you use them regularly, then they don't really clog up. Yeah, the pumps are pretty easy. Like I said, the problem with these things is, though, especially like the part B with Alumilite clear and clear slow, it clogs up. And so you'd have to like soak it in acetone to clear it out. Like if you use it like once a week, basically, it's probably going to clog up. And they're not cheap, Another problem is there's actually kind of a shortage of these things. I guess this type of pump is being used for other things with the pandemic stuff that's going on. So what do I need? 302. It's tough. I don't know what to do to recommend. And if you're making big blanks, that's like all you make, then I would get rid of the pumps because you're just going to be sitting there pumping it forever. But for kind of smaller things, I like them better. I just, like I said, after 7 years, I'm used to them. So that's what I do. I tried. I gave it about a month or so, and I was like, well, I'm not loving these things. All right, so 302, maybe a little over. That's not that big of a deal. You don't want to throw the ratio way off, but, you know, a couple grams extra is really not going to hurt anything. All right, so let's see here. I need a stir stick. So I'm going to stir this guy up. You want to stir real well, scraping the sides of the cup real well, the bottom of it. Make sure you get all the molecules, part A and part B, mixed together. Because if you leave some parts that are not mixed, then you're going to have wispy trails in your casting, and or you're going to have like pockets of goo that, especially if you're turning into it, it'll be liquid still. It won't cure. So make sure to stir up real well, scraping the sides of the cup. Maybe even scrape off your stick just to make sure nothing's kind of stuck to that. So I think that's just about good. I'm going to add my micro Starlight. And I'm just going to add, let's see, I'm going to give you guys kind of the overhead view here. Okay, I'm going to try and kind of hone this in a little bit better. Right there, okay. Just show you how much. It's just going to be like a scoop of it. You don't necessarily need to put a whole lot of this stuff in there. So hopefully you guys can kind of see how much that is. This is one of those, like, I think these are like 3/8 inch, like the smaller popsicle sticks, and just kind of, you know, covering the tip of it. Maybe it's like a, you know, somewhere around maybe an 1/8 teaspoon equivalent, something like that. It's going to be plenty for this. But what it'll do is just add these kind of little flickering, you know, specks of color in the clear. And I don't know if I'm going to really be able to show you guys if it'll really pick it up very well on the camera. One thing I do want to warn you about, if you're selling blanks, it's kind of tough to get this with a still photo. It kind of requires light bouncing off of it. And so a still photo kind of doesn't really pick up the colors as well. It's very difficult. So I just want to warn you about that. But in person, it really makes an awesome effect. So, and in video, you can capture it in video as long as it's moving. There's a lot of little bubbles in this thing right now though, so it's probably kind of hard to pick up. So let's get things kind of close. I'm just going to stir a little bit more. Make sure we're fully stirred up. A lot of people ask, you know, I typically recommend heating up the Hdpe molds. I don't really heat up round ones. There's just no corners for it to suck back from, so I don't really find it to be a problem. So I don't really heat up pipes typically. I just don't really need to do it, I don't think. So, and then all I do is just drop that guy in there. Now what I'm going to do is we're just going to pour a little bit. I kind of screwed up when I made the mold, or let's say the master piece of wood. I kind of cut it a little bit smaller than the diameter of this pipe. So there's a little bit of a gap, and what I like to do, air bubbles can kind of get trapped out there. I like to kind of just roll it around in there and just make sure that there's no air bubbles. See those air bubbles right there? Make sure that there aren't any. Just coat it up, roll it around a little bit. I'm going to stop and just, again, before you get it totally full, that makes it difficult to really pick it up. You also really want to watch out and make sure that you don't just pick it up. I've never had one of these 4-inch silicone plugs like fall out on me, but you know, better to stick something under there, your hand or something. I'm just going to look around here, see if there's any bubbles. I don't really see any, I don't think. There's one little bubble right there. I think it's going to go away under pressure. So I think we're looking good. So we'll fill this guy up. And I got to go over, I guess I can just turn this. We'll turn our little work area camera. I got to go way across the room, and it's probably way out of focus. Sorry about that, but I got to go over there to put this thing. And I think I'm actually going to be using my, let's see here. What else are we making today? Yeah. I'm going to put this on my P-Town subby, whatever these things, little caddy deal. So I can get it in my 5-gallon pot over here a little bit easier. I know, it's a little inconvenient having this thing on the other side of the room, but just didn't have room anywhere else to kind of keep this thing permanently mounted. Actually, I just redid the casting, well, the whole shop kind of. And I think this winter I usually take the week between Christmas and New Year's off. I'm in the shop, but I won't be doing streams and stuff like that, but I think I'm going to take that week and actually kind of redo the casting area again. I got some ideas on how to make things a little bit better. I'm telling you, the shop is never finished. Like you get it there and you're like, oh, this is great, and then little things nitpick you over the course of that year or whatever. You're like, oh, I got to change it. It's always evolving. All right, so I've got this up to 70 PSI, just about. All right, call that good. And then that will need, so with the Lumelite Clear slow set, that'll need to stay in there a couple hours. That's what I usually leave it in there for. Always make sure and check the resin that you're using. Should be in the instructions. This thing. Oh goodness, there we go. My janky setup today. Always check the instructions on the resin you're using, and don't assume because it just says Alumilite that it's the same stuff I use. Alumilite sells, and other brands as well. Many of them sell many different formulas that may sound very similar. So make sure to read the instructions. If you get new resin, double check and make sure you know what the mix ratio is and anything else, all the pertinent information, so you don't assume something and then you end up getting bad results because it was not the same. It doesn't work the same way. One of the big ones with that is Alumilite Clear is what I use, and then there's Amazing Clear Cast is another resin that Alumilite sells, and that's an epoxy that has totally different, working conditions and all that stuff. It's like a 45-minute working time compared to 12. It's epoxy versus this is a urethane. And you'd have to leave that in the pressure pot like overnight, where this stuff is like 2 to 4 hours. So, and the mix ratio is by volume, not by weight. And so there's so many ways that you can screw that up. Jacob's here, what's up? Yeah, I'm about 6'4", 6'3.5", technically, I think. Probably a little bit taller with my Merrell shoes on. Let's switch to the intro view so you can see my face made for radio. I just want to read and make sure I'm not missing anything here. All right, so I'm going to go back and look. I just wanted to let everybody know. So we got Paul is in on the super chat for the next thing that we'll do is the pen blanks. And so the way this is going to work for anybody, let me switch to the other view real quick here. Not that one. Nope, that one. Oh, I just stuck this right in a glob of resin. So we have some shavings, and that's going to be for 2 of these pen blanks. And then we have these Curly Q aluminum shaving guys, which I need to get these guys out of here now. Oops. Dry them off. Let's see. This one actually can wait. These are the ones for the pen blanks. So we got 3 pen blanks that we're going to put the curly cues in, and Paul has picked one. He's on top of one of these slots, and we're going to put Blurple resin, the color shift powder with the purple dye. All right, so I'm actually going to stick this guy back in here and give it a couple more seconds. That one's going in the PVC pipe, and so we'll wait on this. If we'll hold off, don't expect a super chat. We got 5 slots here, so 5 blanks. Paul's got 1 of them. And if anybody wants to grab a color through super chats, you can pick one. And in your super chat, I would recommend, say if you want curly Q or you want the shavings. What I'm going to do with this is we'll just mix up a color, any micas or just dyes, and then just dump a bunch of this stuff in there. And so it'll be kind of a speckly thing. So let me, actually, I just remembered I finally brought over an air hose nozzle that I can pop in. So I'm just going to blow these guys off. And like I said, if you smell it and it smells like acetone, do not put it in the oven. One of the reasons I like acetone, though, is it dries so quick. It evaporates so fast that all it really takes is a little bit of blowing off, and you really don't have any more left on there. Okay, so let's get these guys in the oven. Got to be honest, actually, we're just going to stick the whole thing in there. Let me switch to the overhead view real quick. So we're literally just going to toss these guys in. Some of these are a little bit wide. I found if you just kind of twist them down in, they kind of work pretty well. Usually, because they kind of scrunch up. And so we're just going to pour the resin over it. I think there's plenty of room for it to kind of flow in and around. So we got that in our mold. Toss that in there. Now the way we're going to deal with this stuff is we're going to mix it into the mixing cup. All right. So Frank's in for blood red and spiral. Nice. Awesome. Let's see. I always forget how much. These the 7/8 Turner's Warehouse. So I get that mold is available at Turner's Warehouse as well. I can never remember how much those things take. Let's see. Where's my pen? There it is. All right. So what are we doing? 5 pen blanks. I'm going to just estimate, I don't know, 80 grams. Let's just say, I think there may be like something like 75, 80 grams each. So, I don't know if I'm... Yeah, so let's just try that. Let's see if, I don't want to be under, so let's go with 420 grams total. What we're going to do is we're going to mix it all together and then break it off into a bunch of smaller cups. So let's see here. Let me find a cup that I can reuse. In this case, we're going to be adding mica powders, so I don't mind just, cleaning out a cup. I don't really care if there's 1 or 2 little specks that may still be in there. So let me show you guys what I'm talking about. If you do that, you can just pop it out if you're using one of these paint mixing cups. Let's see if I can show you guys the edges. See how there's like little black spots here and there? That's resin. And so what I wouldn't want is when you're mixing, those little doohickeys can fall into clear resin, and you'll have little black spots and stuff. That stir stick will, get them off that edge. Well, when you're doing the right mixing, scraping the edges of the cup, and they'll come off in your clear resin. That's why I always grab a clean cup, or at least try to find one that I'm pretty darn sure doesn't have anything in there. I've cleaned it extremely well. Now, what I also like to do is I'll literally just take this ruler and just scrape this thing out and then blow it out. And that just kind of makes sure, but that's not going to guarantee that there's no little specks. If you're going for totally clear, it's best, and especially if it's a project where you really don't want anything in there, go grab a clean cup. Jacob's in a curly with Mica blue green. Sweet. That's a good pick. I like it. I really like that Mica blue green. It's a pretty good one. And we got blood red. There we go. Ooh, I think I need to fill that again. I'm going to do a little bit of filling real quick while we're waiting. So we got 2 left. If anybody wants to grab a color to put with the shavings. If not, I actually have some ideas for this that I'd like to test out. But I appreciate you guys' super chats. Thanks for helping support the show. I appreciate it. And picking some good colors too. All right, so can you guys see what I'm doing, sort of? I like to just kind of, it's nice to, if you're going to use specific colors, it's nice to buy in bulk because it's obviously cheaper per, whatever amount, per unit, let's say. But I prefer to just, if you have the smaller cups, I'd rather work out of this, because if for some reason I dumped a bunch of resin in there, or I don't know, something got in there, I'd rather only contaminate this much than, the expensive big jug of it. It's kind of a universal rule, if you're finishing a project, let's say you made like a cutting board, or I don't know, that's maybe not a picture frame, and you need to apply a finish to it. You're not going to take your brush and then dip it into the full can of finish. You're going to break some off and then just use that so that you don't contaminate it. Steve's in orange and shavings. Nice. I like the orange. So, but I got to ask you, Steve, do you want, there's different ways that we can go here, okay? 3 different ways. We can do a mica powder orange. We can do like the Divine Pigments, where it's like a solid color dye, opaque, totally opaque, or we could do a transparent orange dye. So many options, so many options. Yeah, I think orange is going to look pretty sweet. It's going to be a good Harley combination, actually. How to do a halibut encased with epoxy? I don't know. That you don't really need to hire me. The thing is, I don't really know. The problem with that is, and I don't know the answers to this, somehow you'd have to like totally dehydrate the thing completely, which is probably not gonna, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what the answer would be, unfortunately. Who was asking? Let's see, who was asking about that? It was Brent. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even, I can't, because I don't really know how to do that. Let's see here. Let's see if I don't want to miss anything here. Mica. So, okay, now we have Blaze Orange, but I also have the P-Town Subby oranges. They got a couple of oranges that are, actually they're different. They're not the same as Blaze. I know, it gets kind of crazy here with all these. Hopefully they'll kind of come up. I can kind of show you. Let's see. Is that one? Yeah, I got that one off. They're all slightly different. I think, let's see here. I think Blaze Orange is like right in the middle of the color. It's very close to, what is this one? Tangerine. This one's Tangerine for P-Town. That one's like the lightest. Blaze Orange is kind of in the middle. And then Saffron is a little bit, I don't even know how to explain it. They're very similar, but this one's definitely the darkest, medium, lighter. Tangerine, Blaze, or Saffron. Oh, that lid on there. And so that's what I was saying, there's different ways we can go with these shavings. So I was like, either way, I got some ideas on how to look and see how these things work. Now, I would probably say the transparent dye, that is my least favorite. I was going to go with mica versus solid, probably this guy, myself. They're all orange. Blaze orange, the OG. It's a good one. I really like that color too. I got to be honest though, the saffron, both of these other ones from P-Town are pretty good oranges too. They're no slouches. No slouches. All right, now if we don't have another idea, what I'm going to do is we're going to pick a, let's see here. We are going to, what temp do I let the resin go to on the shavings so they don't sink? Well, there's two things that I'm going to do here. If you're going for not that much shavings and you're trying to suspend them, then so it depends on the, Mike McEwen's in. He wants the teal. Woo! All right, so do you want to go with the teal blue Divine? Because I was kind of thinking it'd be neat to try one of these solid colors, but I'll let you pick. It's up to you. What was the question? What temp? So it kind of depends on the temperature in your shop, the resin you're using, all that kind of stuff. Right now, if I was trying to suspend this stuff, I would probably shoot for like 105, maybe, something like that. Maybe stretch it to 110. It just kind of depends, like I said. Typically, I don't have to wait as long if the temperature in the shop is a little bit cooler. Now, if you're using epoxies or some other brand, I have no clue. This is basically, that number really only applies to my temperature, which is 69 degrees in my shop, pretty much dry, no humidity, barely, and with a Lumelite clear slow set. Now, the other thing though is, the other way that I'm going to stack the cards is I'm going to put a ton of this stuff in there. I want to load up that cup. So that will also help. I mean, this is kind of the same way with like coffee beans. If you fill the entire cavity of the pen blank slot, whatever you're casting, if you fill up, if that resin, or I mean not resin, if the material kind of is most of the volume of that hole, then it's not going to sink. So that's another way to kind of get around that. Just fill the entire thing up and put resin around it, basically. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix a cup up, though, for these shavings, and we're just going to dump a bunch in and stir it in there. All right. So let's see here. Divine. Oh, there's no more curlies. We only have shavings left, unfortunately. Sorry about that. All right, blood red. Let's see, what do we got? Blood red. What do we have first? Oh yeah, the blurple. We got blurple. Yeah. Blurple. We got blood red. We got macaw blue green. We got orange. And then we got, the best I got here is teal. Teal blue. Or we could do like a tealish color dye. Or we could do a mica if you want. And there's some really interesting teals from P-Town. They got some pretty nice looking teal micas. They got a turquoise and they got one called mint green. And then we got teal from Caster's Choice. So we got micas if you want that. We got teal blue Divine if you want an opaque, or I could go with a dye that's transparent. She's doing all the choosing. Nice. It's cool. It's cool. She's picking good colors. Doing all the picking. So, Mike McEwen, teal, one of the teal micas, or do you want to go with teal blue opaque? And again, this is all we got left is the shavings. No more curlies, unfortunately. The three of those were taken first. Next time I'll think a little bit ahead and maybe have optional either way. Teal mica. Do you want the caster's choice teal? Or we got kind of a tealish, like this one's called turquoise from P-Town. Kind of show you how that compares. It's a little bit bluer, I would say. Aqua. And then we got mint green, which is maybe a little bit more green. It's pretty close to teal. Very, very close to teal, I would say, but maybe a little bit more on the green side. Get on there. I know, too many choices, it's true. But, you know, let's hone in on this. Let's figure it out. So I'll do it. I'm going to do an experiment. I want to try that solid color someday myself. Kind of curious to see the difference between those two with the shavings. P-Town Subby. Mint green. Mint green or turquoise. Kind of a bluer one or a greener one. I'm thinking you're going mint green. I think that's what you meant, but I want to clarify. I don't want to mess up, you know. Okay, so let's get things going. We're going to mix up 420 grams, so that's 210 times 2 in our big cup. And then we're going to break it off into, let's see, what is 420 divided by 85? 420 85. No, what the heck? 420 divided by 5. So 84 grams, that ought to be plenty. 84 grams in each one of these. We're going to break off 5 cups. 84, 84. So we're going with Blurple on 1, which is going to be, let's see here, probably an 1/8 teaspoon of my blue to purple. That's for anybody that doesn't know what Blurple means. It's my blue to purple color shift powder, plus a drop of purple dye, Lumelite purple dye. And then we got blood red. On this one, let's go with 40. Yeah, I think we should be good with an 1/8 teaspoon. We're going to try that first. Then we got macaw. Blue, green. I got to try some more of these. There's some really interesting eye candy colors too. Still waiting. I'm supposed to get a whole set, but this is eye candy pigments. Macaw blue green. It's an interesting color, and I'm actually going to be working on. I have a blank finally. I used this on that pine cone blank that we made, that big 6-inch pine cone blank. And so I'm really anxious to try this out. So we used the green parts of this is that macaw blue green. And then I added a little bit of purple and some white, but this whole thing was like just jam-packed full of pine cones. So that's actually, I need to start working on that like this weekend. So that's next. So I can't wait to see how that goes. The bluer one. Okay, so we're going with turquoise from them. So we got blood red, about an 1/8. I'm going to try... We're going to put a 1/4 teaspoon. I think this one's a little bit more transparent. So I'm going to go a 1/4 teaspoon of the macaw blue green. We're going to do blaze orange. And again, I think an 1/8. Well, if I need to, I'll add another 1/8 and move it up to a 1/4. Because I don't really want it to be particularly see-through for these pen blanks. It's just not really fun. And then we're doing turquoise P-Town Subby. And again, I think I'm going to try an 1/8. We'll see what we're looking like. Okay, so we got the plan laid out. We got our shavings. We got the mold is in the oven with the curly Q ones are also in there. So let's get our resin out. Switch to the work area view. The white. Sorry about that. My pressure pot's right in the way. Yeah. Okay. So I was just looking at the pressure pot situation here. Why don't we, let's see here, an hour left on that one. I'm just looking at what's happening. Oh, and this one's open too. So real quick, I need to pop this pressure pot. I'm going to put you guys on mute so you don't have to listen to this thing. I got to open this other one though. Okay, got this thing emptied. I saw you guys talking about micas and all that stuff. The one thing that I will say, you can use the makeup things in resin. Typically, most of those you can use in resin. The thing is, though, the ones that, like this eye candy, this is not its main intended use. You know, all of these things are made kind of really for resin. And so I don't know if there's a difference. I'm just saying I don't really know. But I don't know if there's any kind of difference at all between the stuff that is actually for makeup, like that's the primary use of it, and the stuff that we're using here for resin. It's pretty much the same product, you know, in general, but I don't know if there's any kind of like safety certifications that the other ones need to go through for some reason. So I just want to throw that warning out. I have no clue. Typically, my recommendation is there's mica powders. There's these powders, pigments that, you know, are pretty much made to be used in resins. And the thing is about those, you definitely know they work in resins. Some powders out there may not work. They may have ingredients in them that don't work in you know, the resin you're using or any resin. So just if you're using something that you're grabbing from some other, you know, that's a makeup first, do a little experiment and test it before you use it in resin, before you put it in a large amount, because it could react weird if there's something different in them. It's weird. There's some powders actually have some sort of, somehow have moisture in them, which will, with Alumilite clear, will not work. It'll react with that. So just a couple thoughts. Like I said, I don't really know if there's a difference. I'm just throwing a warning out there that it might be worth, before you buy eye candy pigments, you might want to ask them if it's okay for makeup, if that's what you want to use it for, or any of them. That's a good question to ask, you know, like any of these guys. Like I know Fred and I know Brian, so I might ask them if they know anything about that, so I can be a little bit more knowledgeable instead of just give you guys dire warnings. Okay, yeah, Kim's talking about it right there. Sorry, I should have looked at the chat. You got a Swedish Amazon now. Woohoo! That's fun. I love Amazon. I will say, though, that most of the makeup mica powders, they do work with resin, you know, but it's always best to test things that are not, you know, being sold specifically. And there's so many colors, like there's so many mica makers that make them for resin casting purposes. That's their intended target. That it just kind of, for me, doesn't really make sense to go buy some makeup and then hope it works kind of thing. Generally, you should be able to find a mica company that people use with resins all the time that has the colors that you want. There's so many of them. So that's just my kind of recommendation. All right, so 210 times 210 grams of Part A. Man, I'm getting hungry already. What is wrong with me? 160, I wasn't really counting. Usually when I'm pumping these in my head, I'm counting 30. So these are the ones from Alumilite, the pumps from Alumilite. On a clear slow, you know, on both of these, I'm counting 30 grams at a time when I pump. That it's less. It's going to be less than that, but that way you don't go over. In my head, that's the best. That works fine when I'm getting up, adding my resin to the cup. And then I just kind of sneak up on it. The one thing about pumps versus, like, you know, if you're using a gallon jug, it is really difficult to pick up a gallon jug and like sneak up on 2 grams, you know, a couple grams extra. I really didn't like that. A way to get around that is you can put it in a smaller, I don't know which camera one. Put some in a smaller cup so you're not having to pick up a giant jug of it. Makes it a little easier to kind of hone in on. But I find the pumps are you can just kind of tap them and they generally do a pretty good job. So let's see, 210 of Part B. Now, one thing that I probably should have done you guys are going to be doing, you know, lots of cups of stuff, now I've already, the clock is already ticking on this, but I'm just going to let it sit there for a second and show you guys what I should have done beforehand. You can add your mica powders to the cups ahead of time. So we'll get our blurple. That was an 1/8 teaspoon that we wanted to put in there, I believe. Yep. And we're going to do an 1/8 teaspoon of blood red. That'll just kind of save you a couple seconds, you know, when you're getting everything all mixed up and ready. Like I said, I've already added the part B to the part A, so this is really not saving a whole lot of time. A little bit more than if I would have done this, if I would have started mixing that. But the minute the part A and part B are in the same cup, the clock is ticking. All right, we're acting like I didn't add any resin yet. All right, so 1/4 teaspoon of Mica blue green. And what else? 1/8 teaspoon of blaze orange. And if I need to add more, then I'll add some more later. I think this should be okay. Eighth teaspoon. That should probably be enough, but we'll have to see. For pen blanks, you generally are going to want to add more. Oh, it's going to go in that one. Okay. I'm like, where's my other cup? It's in use. All right. So we're at 202. We need to add 8 more grams. We're getting there, slowly but surely. 208. Ooh. That ought to do it right there. 210. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to mix up all the resin in 1 cup. And then we're going to break off 84 grams into each one of these guys or so. Somewhere around there. Let's see here. Chad's here. What's up? Is Frank getting another lathe? He's getting a second lathe. It is nice having a couple lathes, especially if you can get ones that are like kind of specific, purpose specific. All right, so that ought to be good. I'm gonna zero out my scale. We're gonna add, like I said, 84. That ought to be good. Probably don't have to be this accurate with this, but whatever. Pretty close would have probably worked, but I think I'm over. Well, I guess I hope I'm overshooting it on the amounts. Whoa, that's way too much. That's okay. One of these days I need to write down how much those things take. Okay. And I need to add some purple dye to this as well. So we put the blue to purple color shift, but we also want to add just a drop of purple dye. It just brings everything together. Okay, so we will add our purple dye to this one. I'm going to switch to the other view real quick. This one. All right, so just a drop of purple. Don't need much, but it really makes a killer looking color. Color shift. Depending on how the light hits it, it either looks pretty, you know, like an indigo or a violet, purple, blue or purple. Okay, so we got that one. Let's get some sticks in these cups here. We need to add our turquoise to this cup. So we're going to add an 1/8 teaspoon. I'm going to give it a heavy 1/8 on this one, just so I don't have to come back. If that's definitely going to be enough to make it like opaque. Okay, there's that one. And then on the two that have the shavings, I need to add shavings. So actually, we're going to be more than good. I forgot about that. That's going to add a good amount of bulk to those 2 cups. We got our blood red. We got our macaw green here. Somewhat similar to the turquoise, actually. Just a little bit different. We got our blaze orange. Good picks, good picks. You did love it. I thought you might. I thought you might as well. Okay, so let's see here. Our turquoise and blaze orange are the ones that are getting the shavings. So, and I'm just going to kind of, you know, wing it on this. We're just going to kind of add a little bit. These things are kind of, I want to kind of break them up a little bit. Kind of stuck together. We're going to kind of load this up a good amount. So that ought to be good. Let's see how that goes. And I just want to mix it in. Maybe a little bit more. I'm going to set that aside for now. And these will be turnable with, you know, high-speed steel. It doesn't matter. High-speed steel, carbide, whatever kind of tool you want to use, it'll work just fine with this stuff. Aluminum turns quite well usually with any kind of tool. Sometimes I get that question. So the aluminum honeycomb blanks, that stuff turns great. You know, it cuts the aluminum no problem, and it's really not hard on your tools either. All right, so if you're going to do this type of thing, you definitely want to use pressure. You're not going to get the air bubbles out of blanks that are full of lots of small stuff like this by just using a slow setting resin. Definitely, I'm going to say needs pressure. Otherwise it's going to be riddled with air pockets, like little air bubbles and things. Okay, so I'm going to pour those 2 first. Okay. Oh, I just cracked my cup. That's not good. You definitely want to fill it to the top because the level is actually going to drop. This looks like it's totally full, but it's packed full of air pockets, little air bubbles in there. And once we pressurize it, all of that volume that was taken up by the air bubbles is going to be gone. And then the level of the resin and the, well, just the blank, the height, let's say, I guess, of the blank is going to go down. So whenever you're doing this kind of thing where you're packing it full of some sort of a material, probably going to be riddled with a lot of little air bubbles, and so you want to make sure that you're getting it totally filled up. All right, and then we got our blurple. Hopefully I mixed enough of this stuff. Nice. I did good. I didn't mess up, guys. I would say I just about nailed that amount. I'm going to add just a little bit more of this. Oh, it's getting kind of thick. Let's get our Mica in there and let's get this thing under pressure. Mica's a little bit low because kind of added a little bit more to some of the other ones, but I think it's still going to be, you know, enough resin. All right, so let's get this in the pressure pot. Yeah, that's fine. Can you guys see what I'm doing? Not really. Switch to this view. I'm over here. I don't know if that's working or not. Pop the lid on. We did pretty good. We got a little bit of resin left over, but I'm out of time, so kind of wasted a little bit, but we'll be okay. So I'm anxious to see how this all turns out. I think we'll get some pretty cool results with these guys. All right, there we have it. We do a little bit of cleanup over here on aisle 3. Get all this stuff put away, and then we're on to our last one. Now, if anybody wants to jump on this last one, it's going to be kind of limited as to the options that I'm going to allow you to have. But we're going to cast our last piece in a pipe, and it's going to be a handle blank for one of the brass mallets. The guys over at Stainless Bottle Stopper sent this to me as well, and so I thought, let's make a handle for it. Now, what I want to do though is we're going to go for transparent. So it's either going to be clear or, you know, like just a tinted resin. So if anybody wants to dictate what we do with this, what color or, you know, whatever, limited to, it has to be transparent. Jump on that super chat bandwagon. If not, I'll let her rip. So we got lots of this. This stuff goes a long way. The shavings, that stuff will go a very long way. And they sent a bunch of bags, like 2 of these gigantic bags, and we barely even used anything on those little pen blanks. So don't be surprised if you see some more aluminum shavings coming down the road, probably in a bigger project, I would also say too. Maybe we'll send Carl another murder bowl. Maybe we'll cast some shavings in there, some aluminum shavings, and then also put some razor blades in it, and we'll call it, like, I don't know, some word that's like murder but worse. missing anything or not here. Let's see. Nancy has a question. Do blanks made with either the cylinder or Hdpe pen blank molds with the stoppers have a surefire way of getting them to release? Well, I'll say sometimes some PVC pipes, it's not a bad idea to give it a good dousing the first time, but I reuse these, and it's not like I use them every day, and it's almost like they're like primed at that point. I really don't need to put more on. If you're having problems with it sticking, well, if you're having any problems with it sticking, try adding a little bit more to the PVC pipes. For these Hdpe molds, the P-Town ones that have that's what I just used, that have the little plugs where you can use a punch. If you have the demolding rack, you can put a punch in there and just tap it out if it gets stuck. The other thing about demolding that I'll say though, is sometimes if you let it sit, well, it's like there's a window, right? Where if you try and take it out too early, it's still not really fully like set up. Like there's little areas, like in this cup, am I in the right thing? Yeah. Where there's like a thin amount of resin, right? That's gonna take forever to fully like harden. And if it's still kind of sticky, it doesn't want to come off of the surface of anything. So think about that in a mold, where, you know, if you take it out, if you're trying to take it out too soon, and there's little areas that are kind of sticky, it may be harder. So in some cases, it may be better to wait a little bit longer before you try demolding it. Now, if you leave it sitting in there forever, for like a week, then at that point, it may also, that's the other thing, there's kind of this window. It may kind of stick more to it as it's like fully curing to it. So, you know, when I'm doing, so just to kind of give you guys an idea, when I'm doing pen blanks, 3/4 inch PVC pipes with Alumilite clear slow set, I let them sit in the pressure pot overnight, even though they don't need to really. But I'll let them sit overnight, and at that point they're much easier to demold, especially with like 3/4 inch pen blank size. These are harder to demold with resin in general than, you know, 4-inch PVC. And I think some of that has to do with every resin is going to shrink ever so slightly as it's curing, and so a larger diameter it's going to shrink even more. But so I wait overnight before I try demolding my pen blanks made with this resin. And every resin is going to be different, so I can't really say every resin, you know, the temperatures in your shop, all that kind of stuff are all going to kind of affect that. So hopefully that maybe gives you some ideas. Like I said, bare minimum, maybe try letting it sit a little bit longer before demolding it. And if that's maybe not the case, then try using a little bit more stoner on it, and it should, you know, because that's what mold release is. That's the purpose of it. So it obviously, like, resin doesn't stick to it. So maybe you need to coat it a little bit more, possibly. I don't know. There's my couple ideas. Whatever Eva wants. Sweet. All right, so I gotta take this out of the resin cup here. We're gonna blow it off, and then I'm gonna cover that. Where's my little? So what I do is that's just a vat of acetone. After a while, I'm gonna replace it. But I use this cup full of stuff for all of my, like, the, you know, anything that's metal. I use this to wash off. But you want to make sure that you cover it with something, otherwise it'll just evaporate. Put that under there. So let me put my little air nozzle on. Just blow off any extra acetone that might be on this. Like I said, if you can smell, and you don't want to be sticking this way up your nose or anything and taking like a big huff, but I mean, if you can smell acetone on it, then you definitely need to dry it off a little bit more. But I can't smell anything. It smells like, you know, aluminum. So I'm going to pop that into the oven. Oh, I forgot to show you guys, for anybody that didn't see already, and we got to see what Eva wants. So again, so your choices are, we're going to be casting this PVC pipe And what I need to know is we need a transparent something, and you can have at it. You can do whatever kind of stuff you want. We can put some glitter in there. We can put clear. We can put, you know, all the Alumilite dyes. Most of them are transparent. You can add a little bit of dye and just, you know, like make like red, and then just shove it in there. Is there anything else? I'd probably steer clear of trying to do wispy things. You know, it's probably just not going to really work that well. So those are some of your options. Throw it out there and I'll let you know if it's possible. I want to be able to see the entire corkscrew. Because it's kind of thin, you may not be able to actually cut into that stuff and expose the edge. So I want to make sure that you can see it. It's going to be a handle blank. I'm keeping my eye on it. I'll keep my eye on it. So this was the snake skin, and it doesn't even look like snake skin at all. I was a little bit disappointed. I don't know. If you saw the Wednesday stream, I was kind of like, meh. And I think the problem was I had kind of an expectation, and this is nothing like what I expected at all. But it's actually really cool looking. So not too bad. I'm pretty happy with it. It just, you know, there's no snake skin, you know, to it at all. Or the snake skin shed. I think that, you know, and I think I told everyone, the best way to get a snake skin look is you'd have to mount it to the tube. Which I'll probably try that sometime, but that's kind of the obvious way to do it, and I just wanted to see what does it look like if you just dunk this stuff. So, Eva's going for blue. Sweet. Chad, that's awesome. All right, so let's go with, we got ocean blue. This is a really good one. It's very transparent. Let's see, I don't have the right camera on. Let's do this the right way. So we got ocean blue from Alumilite. That's a really good dye to add to clear resin and just make it, you know, like that stained glass, you know, clear, but blue. So we got that in there. So all right, we're ready to rock and roll, guys. Let's get this going. So I forget how much the resin those things take for that tall. Let's see. So if you need the calculation, go to Alumilite's website and search for volume calculator. Basically what you're going to do, the formula is going to be pi r squared times height times 0.554. And that'll give you the ounces needed. And then I convert that to grams. It's probably not perfect because I'm converting it to like a weight from a volume, but it's pretty close, I think. So let's see, that's a 1.5 inch PVC pipe. So let's do the calculation here and see if I agree with it. 0.75 times 0.75 times 3.14 times, that's going to be about 6.25 times 0.554 times 29. Yeah, a couple hundred. So, and I usually just kind of go up from there. So number 3 is going to be a spiral handle. .5 inch PVC pipe. We're using slow set clear. And I think we're going to go with about 200 grams, so 100 and 102. And then we're going to add ocean blue dye. That's going to be pretty cool. That'll look really good with that brass, I think. All right, so again, I'm going to mix up 200 grams total, and again, we're going for, and this goes for clear or transparent as well. I usually do this where with Alumilite clear, slow set, only this resin, or Alumilite clear, but clear, slow is what I always use. I'm going to add a little extra part B to the mixture, just the thing I do. Not a bad way to go. Always produces good results for me. Do not do that with any epoxies or any other thing, any other resin type. Okay, so let's get a cup out. Now, one thing that so in the back of my head, I was kind of thinking here, one thing that I might start using a little bit more often, and a lot of you guys know that I've never been a big fan of Amazing Clearcast because of its thickness, but now that they got one that has UV, the ACC Plus, Amazing Clearcast Plus, I'm kind of like, I want, in this case, like eventually resin's yellow, and so this stuff will keep it from yellowing the longest. So I think what I'm going to do, I think we're going to switch resins. We're going to go with Amazing Clearcast Plus because it's a good choice for this. We don't have to worry about it, yellowing quite as quick. Eventually it probably will still, but the question is how long. I don't know, but let's switch it up. Let's go with Amazing Clearcast on this. My problem is I don't really think in volumes. I think in weights. So I'm going to have to kind of wing it, I guess, a little bit. But I'm thinking that, let's see, let me get a cup to mix. 200 grams would probably be, I don't know how much. Let's go with Amazing Clearcast. Why not? Plus. I'm going to be doing an experiment with this stuff, actually, project coming up. I have a Tacoma that's a manual transmission. My gear shift knob, like the leather, like it was the factory thing, the leather and all this stuff is just falling off. And so I want to replace my gear shift knob, and I want to use Amazing Clearcast Plus. And I'm going to go for, clear, probably like a dragon egg kind of style thing, hybrid. And I want to use this stuff and put it in my car, which is going to be exposed to UV light. I don't even park in the garage. So we'll have to see how long this stuff remains clear and doesn't yellow. I think it'll be a good experiment. All right, Christina, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. All right, so I'm just going to kind of estimate, let's see, 200 milliliters. So I was going to mix up 200 grams, which you can kind of, if you're using water, you can just convert it to milliliters. So I'm just going to kind of estimate, overshoot a little bit. Let's just say 250 milliliters. That may be too much, but that's fine. Is what I'm going to mix up here. And so I'm going to go with 125 and 125. Now, again, you do not want to be messing around with your mix ratios with Amazing Clearcast. That's I'm not going to add more part B. You don't want to do that. That's only a thing with Alumilite Clear Slow Set that I do. So let's get these things going. I'm going to switch this. We're going to call it 250 milliliters. And so Amazing Clearcast is the mix ratio is 1-to-1 by volume. We don't use weight with this resin. You gotta use a graduated cup, and it's going to be equal parts. Okay, so 125 milliliters part A, 125 milliliters part B. And hopefully that'll work. And then we're going to add some ocean blue to it. All right. Should be enough, I think. Have I poured a larger amount? No, this stuff can't really handle too big a pour. That's another drawback. So, something like this, you're fine. You can make pen blank bricks. That should go fine, something like that. But that's the reason, the reason I like the Clear Slow Set is it allows me to pretty much do anything. The only drawback is it has no UV inhibitors in it. But for a project like this should be fine, no problem. I don't think that's too much resin. But if you're trying to do a large mass, you can't use this stuff. It won't work. You'd have to switch to the deep pour. But even that stuff, you guys saw, you can't, pour a gigantic mass of that, but you can pour more of that than Amazing Clearcast. All right, so let me get and I like to just put the marks on my cup. There's so many, like when you're using these paint mixing cups, there's so many marks all over these things that it's very easy to get lost. So I'm going to go 250. I'm just going to put a little mark there. And then, or 125, and 250, so that I kind of know which marks I'm trying to hit. This stuff's much thicker. I don't particularly love working with it. It's so thick. It's not very fun to mix. But it does have some advantages to it that, you know, are worth using. I use this stuff for the coasters because it is thick. And it won't just kind of, you know, if you pour it in something, it's going to kind of remain, it's not just going to flow out real quick. And that's what I wanted. So that's the nice thing, is there's so many different resins out there on the market. And, you know, like depending on what type of work you're doing or just how you work, there's a resin out there that's going to work excellent for either the project you're working on or the way that you work, you know, what you like. We also have a longer working time with this. So, you know, if you need longer time to get things like ready, whatever, this is a good option to go with. It turns pretty well too. That's one of the nice things about ACC. As far as I know, honestly, I haven't turned a lot of Amazing Clearcast, but it's a pretty decent one. I was really happy with how deep pour turned. It felt very similar to Alumilite Clear or Clear Slow Set, which I kind of prefer over many other types of resins. Some resins are a little bit like soft, or some of them are very stringy when the ribbons come off, a lot more than Alumilite Clear. And so I was pretty happy with the deep pour. That was a pretty good one. Okay, so stuff is like honey, or like, I don't know. I'm actually really surprised because the viscosity of that stuff can get super thick. Now, one thing you can do to thin it out is warm it up, which is fine. You know, like get like you know, put it in like a double boiler type thing. You don't want to get any water in there, but just heat it up somehow. Like put the jugs in water, you know, double boiler type thing. The problem with that is, though, this is the only drawback to it. If you're trying to use it for the longer working time, if you heat it up first, you're not going to get that full working time. Just one thing to mention, to point out with resins. A lot of people say, oh, just heat it up, and that's great. But if you really need that 45 minutes of working time, if you're making micarta or something like that, I don't recommend heating it up just to get it to mix better. There are at that point, I'd rather just get a thin viscosity resin that has a long working time. So just a couple little notes, things that float through my brain while I'm doing this. And I usually recommend with epoxies, you know, it's kind of the same drill. You're going to mix it until it's not hazy anymore, which, let's see if I can get let me see if I can get a really good shot of this. Just kind of angle that straight down. So that's not very clear, right? I mean, it's kind of hazy. Definitely, we're not done mixing. When it's ready, it should be totally clear, like crystal clear. And there's going to be bubbles in there, but it'll be very clear when it's ready to rock. Okay, so it's the same drill, but I find that most epoxies do better with a little bit more mixing. So once it's clear, give it a little bit more time, just to double check, just to make sure. Alumilite Clear tends to mix extremely fast and well, and you got enough time with most of these epoxies. They have like a 30, 45 minute, hour, 2 hours, you know, a lot of working time. So give it the amount of time, you know, give it a good amount of time mixing. All right, so now it's starting to clear up. Like that's much clearer. There's no wispy trails really. There's still a little bit. It's still not dead clear, but we're getting closer now. And again, you want to mix the sides and the bottom of the cup real well. So yeah, upcoming project, we're going to do a gear shift knob hybrid, kind of dragon eggy with Amazing Clearcast Plus. That should be fun, and actually coming up real soon. So I'm about to start working on that big pine cone blank that I showed you guys, the 6-inch big one. I'm gonna make a lamp out of it. Another good use for Amazing Clearcast Plus is in for a couple reasons. Again, because it's thick, this kind of helps in this situation, but also the UV protection. This is a good one to apply as like a finish on the outsides of things. So, you know, in the case of, let's say you're going to pour like a gigantic bowl hybrid blank, you know, you can't use Amazing Clearcast Plus, you know, but you can use Alumilite Clear Slow Set and then put a coating of this stuff on and you get the UV protection bonus. So not a bad way to go. Again, using the right resin for the right purposes, it's not a bad idea to make sure, you know. Use the Alumilite Clear Slow Set for doing a big pour, and then use Amazing Clearcast Plus for your UV protection. Not a bad way to go. So we're going to do that on that lamp. Not that it's really going to get a lot of UV stuff, but I think it'll be a good way to apply a finish as well. There's a lot of people that do the tumblers, epoxy tumblers, that use Amazing Clearcast and Clearcast Plus now, because it's a good one. The thicker viscosity actually works pretty well for applying that on the outside, a thin coating on the outside of something, because it doesn't drip as much. Okay, so I have mixed that to death, I feel like. What do you guys think? We're gonna readjust this a little bit. So we got our ocean blue dye. I mean, we really don't need a whole lot. I'm gonna add like a drop. And that should be plenty. And this is just going to impart color to the resin, but it's going to stay transparent. So we'll be able to see that aluminum spiral shaving thing quite well. Okay, that's mixed in pretty good. Let's put our dye away. Let's pop our spiral in there. Or actually, what we're going to do is we're going to pour. Here we go. We're going to pour our resin in first, and then we're going to drop our little corkscrew deal. I'm going to pour about 3/4 or so. A little bit more than that, but just to make sure I don't overflow it when I add that metal thing. We're not even close, but, and then I'm just going to drop this guy in there. It's a little bit longer than the pipe, so I'll just add a little bit more. Top it off. All right, so we got a corkscrew pipe. And let's see, which one is this one going in? This one's going in this one. Now, this stuff is going to have to stay in the pressure pot longer. That's another kind of, I'm going to call it, I consider it a drawback. Like most epoxies, you're looking at, I have a feeling I'll probably demold this tomorrow. They have some pretty ridiculous, like I don't know if they call it demold times. What are the numbers? Do they call it demold time? Yeah, so on the jug, they have a demold time of 24 to 48 hours. All right, but the reality is, in most cases, overnight works okay when you're pouring, like, you know, pen blank brick or that PVC pipe, a fair amount of resin volume. It should be most likely fine if you do like an overnight type of deal. Like a 9, 10, 12 hours, something like that, should be good. Now, if you want to, you know, the thing is you don't want to pull it too early, but I believe that 24 to 48 hours number, that resin is really, it was at least Amazing Clear Cast was introduced as a bar top epoxy, okay? And in that case, you're going to be pouring a super thin layer of it. And at that point, you're going to have to let it sit there for 24 to 48 hours for very tiny things. You don't want to touch it. It's going to be soft. But I've found most of the time for something like a handle blank, that size, you should be fine overnight, I would think. So let's see here. Let me switch to the intro view. And I'm just going to see if I missed anything. Yeah, well, thank you, Eva, for coming up with a good idea. I like that blue. It's gonna that turquoise is gonna look great with the brass. That's gonna be a really good color with this brass. So that'll be a brass hammer. I've got a lot of blanks and things, and I'm running out of time to get projects done right now. And there's bigger things like that big lamp project that's on the list first. But I do, and I have these other projects that I really want to get done before the end of the year. So I'm running out of some time, kind of thing. But eventually we'll get to it. So coming up soon is going to be that lamp project. But this Sunday, I have a bottle opener project that I think you guys are going to really like, and I'm kind of excited. I kind of did the video and music a little bit different, so I'd appreciate it if you guys let me know if you liked the editing and the music and how that kind of goes with the video. I may not be able to do that on every one, but I was looking at some different types of music and tried something new, and I liked it kind of. So I'd love to hear what you guys think. That video will be up Sunday. Let's see, is there any other questions? Costas, yeah, that ocean blue. So that blue was just the ocean blue from Alumilite. In clear resin, this stuff is amazing. And you don't have to do anything. I didn't, you know, it's what it is in their bottle. That's a really good blue for oceany things. It's, you know, obviously it's called ocean blue, but just that perfect kind of blue tint, like stained glass kind of blue for a lot of different things. So I like that one. Thanks, Mike. Happy Thanksgiving to you. I don't know if do you celebrate Thanksgiving up there in the Canada? I'd imagine you do. Have a good meal at least. When am I gonna have a live unwrapping these? I'm not sure if I'm gonna. If I do demold them, it will be tomorrow, but I'm not entirely certain that I'll be able to do that. Like I said, I got that project that I really need to get turning, and I have blank orders for blanks, which are taking up my inventory. So I'm not sure if I get on top of everything tomorrow, then I'll do a live. Otherwise, I'll just post pics on Instagram and Facebook of them demolded. All right. You're not liking anything that I do? Oh, man. Oh, no. It's too bad. Let's see here. Yeah, you came a little bit late. Sorry about that. Today was kind of a short one. Sometimes the castings are a little bit quicker. I only have so many pressure pots that I can actually use right now because I got to do blank orders. So anyway, let's see here. Anything else? I don't think so. Don't think so. Oh yeah, you guys have an earlier Thanksgiving. That's true. You should have another Thanksgiving this weekend, or on Thursday. Just do two. Why not? I'm going to start celebrating Canadian Thanksgiving. I think I like food, so it sounds good to me. Anyway, so again, guys, don't forget about the Turner's Warehouse Ornament Challenge auctions our live. So here's another link to that if you haven't, if you didn't see it earlier. I'm going to add a link to it in the show notes as well for people that watch the replay. So all the ornaments that we made for the auction, or for the challenge for Turner's Warehouse and St. Jude, they're all up for auction now. The auctions are going. You just go to that Facebook page, and there's a picture of each ornament. And so you just, if you see one that you want to bid on, you put the bids down in the comments for each photo, for each different one. So those are ready to go. It's a good way to raise some money for St. Jude, and it's a good way to see everybody's ornaments that they entered. And they picked the winners. I think they were doing that around the time that we started the live stream here. So check and see if you guys won. Congratulations to all the winners of the ornament challenge. And I think that's about it. So like I said, video coming out Sunday. I will either post pics, or I'll let you guys know if I'm going to, do a live demolding these guys. Big thank you to everybody that super chatted and picked some awesome colors. I appreciate it. And I think that's about it. So yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Next week's live stream schedule, definitely not having one on Wednesday. We have other things that we're doing, kind of dropping food off for family and people. So I am not going to be even in the shop. So that's not going to happen. Friday is a maybe, so be looking on Instagram and Facebook I'll let you guys know if it's a yay or a nay. I'm just not sure exactly what the plan is. So maybe Friday may not work. So we're either gonna have no live streams next week, or maybe on Friday. But we'll definitely be back the week after that. So again, happy Thanksgiving, guys. Have a really great weekend. Don't forget, there's Black Friday deals going on. Oh, I almost forgot my Black Friday. So if you guys are interested if you've been looking at my ebook, The Beginner's Guide, that's going to be on sale, 50% off, Friday through Monday. So sorry, I almost forgot about that. So be looking for that. If you were thinking about picking one up, wait till Friday. They're going to be on sale at 50%. So, oh, we got dinner's ready. So anyway, guys, have a great evening tonight. Get in the shop and do something fun. Let's see, that's next week, Thursday. Yeah. So get in the shop and have some fun making something cool. And check out my video on Sunday. It's going to be it's a pretty good video. I'm just going to say, I think you guys will like it. So thanks for joining the fun tonight, and I will see you guys on the next stream.